Hello, and welcome back to Minecraft. The day that this is going up is going to be Halloween, which means this episode we are going to be focusing on making something that fits the season. To start things off today, I went ahead and I made myself a new skin. So I've got this new outfit on, and I'm supposed to look kind of like a mage for Halloween. And you can see in here what that looks like a little bit better. I got like my headband and some fancy sparkly jewelry, everything like that. I thought it really fit the idea of what I want to build today. And we're going to be doing something outside of the village today. I need a little bit of a break from building all this. We have built a lot so far, but I kind of want to do something a little bit different. And so we're going to be heading back behind everything that we've worked on so far and into the swamp. Let's go. You can see back behind our Fletcher's building that we have this nice swamp back here, and I have worked on some of the mud in the lake over here, but it stops as we get a bit further over here. You can see it kind of stops right here, and I think we should extend it just a little bit further over here to this witch's hut. The basic vanilla witch's hut is kind of boring, and I kind of have seen this up from the mountains while we're exploring a few times and thought to myself, I think we can do something better than this. This is kind of bland and boring, and I want something that really kind of suits our swamp and suits everything that we've done here. And since this is so close to home, I want to do something decorative. To get started, I think the first step is going to be to remove the witch's hut, and I might leave maybe some of these logs as a marker just so I know where it's at, because I do want to build in relatively the exact same spot. That's the witch's hut dealt with. Now I think I'm going to remove some of these trees in the area, particularly the ones that are in the waterway, because I'm not sure if I want those there. And then after that, I think I want to do a little bit of terraforming and get some of this extra grass out of the way to make it easier to kind of go through here straight over to that lake over there. I think the cleanup is definitely already starting to make a difference. I still have some filling in to do here. I think I want this area to be like a nice flat area that I can put stuff on and maybe have our path coming from. I think that would be a good idea. And then on that side, we'll have our path that leads further into this lake area. And maybe eventually we can lead it that direction. I think that might lead further out if I remember correctly. So we have quite a few options here. I'm going to want to do a little bit of terraforming underwater because right now this is looking very flat over here. And over here, as you can see, naturally it kind of has like this dip in. And I want to add a little bit more of that over here. So I'm going to have a bit more terraforming to do underwater, I think. But it'll be worth it in the end so that this doesn't look so flat. All of the dirt in this part of the lake has been placed, and it's looking so much better, but now I need to do the tedious process of turning everything into mud so that it's super squishy down there, and it all looks nice. I usually don't do any of the mud terraforming and stuff like that in a video, so just in case I wanted to go ahead and add it in this one, in case you don't know, you can use a water bottle to just keep clicking and turn everything into mud. It's really tedious and the volume on it is really loud, but it works if you don't have quick access to a mangrove swamp where there's a lot of mud. Filling in the mud has to be one of the most tedious things that I have done in Minecraft, but it always looks really good, and so at the end I'm always pleased with the result and keep doing it. As you can kind of see, we stopped right around there, and way out there we stopped about there as well. And I have seen that it does look like we will eventually be able to continue this path over here and out over here. there is more water out this way and we'll be able to take that somewhere else. I think there's a lot of swamp here, but we could eventually make maybe a winding river with a couple of points of interest around it or something like that. The swamp is definitely a good area for spooky builds and things of that nature, so we've got a lot of options to go over here. And I was really curious, so I figured I'd show you guys how many times I have used the glass bottle and the water bottle. Quite a lot. And it looks like the dirt placement is pretty much exactly the same, which is kind of crazy. Been doing a lot of that. A lot of digging as well. That's so funny. And we've got such a high amount for the mud, too. Very, very funny. I guess after seeing that, it's always good to keep that in mind if you ever think that you want to do something like this to the terrain underwater near your base. It's a lot of work, but it does look nice at the very least. Let's get started with our plan for today. So, like I mentioned before, I want to go ahead and I want to upgrade this witch's hut that was here. And I might be moving it slightly from where it was because it's kind of in an inconvenient spot, I think, with the river running through here. So I might move it slightly over, but that's okay. I'm not trying to make a farm or anything like that. I probably wouldn't want to make something like that so close to home because home is just right over there. And so I think we're just going to go with something decorative, and so it'll be okay if it's not in the exact spot, I think. I think this is what I'm going to go for placement. So the original witch hut was right here, and so we're just moving it slightly over to the side, and I'm going to go with kind of a similar build to what it is in vanilla. I want to kind of go with like a small hut that is raised up on pillars out of the water, and I want mine to be a little bit crooked, which is kind of why I've gone for the shape that I've gone here. Instead of a regular square, I wanted this build to be slightly on a diagonal. I figured that might be a good chance for me to learn how to build on a diagonal, and it'll be okay if it looks a little bit hobbly because since it's a witch's hut, it doesn't really matter if it looks a little bit wonky. This is kind of what I'm thinking for the layout of the pillars that are going to hold up our building. And as you can see, it kind of starts down lower over here and it raises up over there. And that's because I'm hoping to make the entire building kind of skew upward like it's on a hill. So that way you have more of a gap under the building. I think that would be more visually interesting. So that's what I'm going to be attempting. As I'm working on building this, I hope you guys don't mind that I talk about Halloween. Halloween has always been one of my favorite holidays, if I'm completely honest, even though now that I'm older, we don't really celebrate it as much as I did when I was younger. My partner and I, we're pretty much homebodies at this point, so we mostly stay home instead of going out and partying or doing anything like that, and we're kind of far too old to be trick or treating. But we found our own kind of tradition at home, and we usually get really cuddled up on the couch and we watch scary movies and we enjoy a nice meal. It's honestly been quite a few years since I've even bothered to dress up for Halloween. I kind of felt like talking about maybe some of the costumes that I've had when I was much younger, because I was kind of a silly kid. I didn't do a lot of the traditional costumes that you see kids wearing around. Things like, for example, a witch's costume. I think that's the pretty common one for children to dress up as. It's quite easy to get the stuff together for that, but I was kind of more interested in being a weird little kid. And so any idea that I had that my parents were willing to humor me on, I went ahead and went with, and the weirder the better. If I manage to find the time, I'll go ahead and I'll throw in some sketches of what I remember my costumes looking like when I was younger, any of the ones that I'm talking about, so you guys kind of have an idea. And just to take a break from that for a moment, I'm kind of making a walkway around the building so that there's like an area around it, and it's gonna kind of look like a mess at the moment without a building here. It kind of is like, what am I making? But I think this is going to be kind of a walkway, and I'm going to have it kind of trail off down over into here, which I suppose I could go ahead and start working on as well. And I might want to grab some other wood types and stuff like that, just so that there's a little bit more variation, because I don't think I want it to all just be dark oak, but I do want it to be this kind of a dark wood. Oops, got one down there, because I think this looks pretty decent. Back to kind of chatting about costumes and being silly as a kid. Believe the very first costume that I can remember, anyways, I wanted to go as Cousin It from the Addams Family, which is kind of a strange costume for a young child to want to be, but that is exactly what I wanted to be. And luckily, my family humored me with that and thought that would be a really good idea. And in my head, the idea of this costume was, as accurate as it would be in the movies. What I kind of ended up being was absolutely nothing like that, of course. I had a really long hair as a child. I wasn't allowed to cut my hair, and I didn't really like having long hair, but this was kind of the one thing that I accepted with my long hair was, oh, hey, I could be Cousin It for Halloween then, since my hair is so long. I think this is looking good for the pathway that leads up to the place. Might narrow this a little bit. I think this might be too wide, though. Yeah, I think that's looking much better. Anyways, I keep getting distracted for what I'm trying to tell you guys about. My bad. So, the Cousin It costume that I ended up wearing was basically me in a very warm coat because it was freezing on Halloween. Big, puffy, warm coat with my hair strung across my forehead, being held down by, I believe, one of those like old sweatbands. And it didn't look good. I can remember that much. It didn't look good. And most of my hair was just string over my face, and it looked ridiculous, but I remember being so happy with it as a child. I'm pretty sure no one knew what I was the entire time that I was out for the night. And I was such a shy child that I can't imagine that I even told anyone what I was supposed to be. I probably barely even said, trick or treat when I got in. Don't mind me fixing some of these silly placements I made. I don't know what I was doing. Talking at the same time is apparently not my strong suit, but definitely something I want to learn to get better at over time. Not entirely sure how I'm going to do this, but I'll figure it out as I go along, I think. Let's take a quick nap, though, so that we don't get any extra spawns. I'd be really curious to know if anybody else can remember having really weird or strange costumes like that when they were younger. Just things that they were interested in when they were a child, and maybe their parents didn't quite understand why they were so excited about something so silly like that. I think I might also want to come in some areas and maybe add a little bit more structural support somewhere, just so it's not only held up by these logs, and also maybe to give it like a little bit more interest down here. So something like that there, maybe. And I'm kind of thickening some of these real thin spots up as well. I think those added little structures are definitely helping to kind of improve the way this is looking. Again, I think I'll need to come in and texture some more because some of it is quite sloppy and messy. I think we'll try to figure out what we're going to do for the walls here next. I want this building to look really kind of weathered and tarnished, so I'm going to go ahead and go with this acacia and this tuff here and kind of combine them in kind of like splotchy kind of patches so that certain areas look more weathered than others, I think. And for now, I'm not worried about window placement or anything like that. I'll definitely be having to figure that out in just a moment. But I think for now, I just want to try to figure out how tall I want my building. Let me stand back to get a look at it. All right, that does look tall enough. And it's at such a weird angle, and I'm really enjoying the weird angle. I want to go ahead and add one more row up here so that it's just a bit taller over here. This whole building is supposed to be really wonky and weird looking. So we're going to go with that. And I think because I've made it taller over here, I am going to add a little bit more of the acacia, so there's a little bit more variety over here. I don't want it to be all tough. I felt like the tuff was looking a little too samey and too large of an area, so I went ahead and added some pale moss as well. It kind of breaks up the texture just enough, I think. Here's kind of what this side looks like, and I think now I need to figure out where I want my windows and things like that. I think I want a big window over on this side. And I'm wondering if we could accomplish that with those, and then maybe using these on the side. I think that works. It still looks fully closed in. And I think that'll be kind of our only big window for this. Over here is where I want the door. I'm going to want it to lead in right here, and I'll probably put a step here. Might fix this little problem as well if I put a couple of these slabs down. I think that'll help, but I think that's where I'm going to want the front door. I'm going to do a smaller window on this side and an even smaller one on this side. I think I might leave this side a little bit more dark because it's only 3 blocks tall, whereas this side is 4 blocks tall. So I think this side I'm going to leave without any windows at all, and we might put something there like cupboards or something on the inside that kind of blocks that area so that it doesn't look like it even needs windows. And then I think we'll do maybe no windows here and another one of these tall ones here. I think this fixes the problem with the doorway so that we can get in a little better. We've got a floor in here now. I think that's looking pretty good. And I think in the last episode, we went to a trial chambers and I considered going to get the copper from there, but I realized that in the long term, that's only going to help me so much, so I decided to make something over at the base. Let me show you what I went ahead and made. So way down here in our noisy as heck basement, where we've got all of our farms, I started a path down here. And as you can see, I've been oxidizing some copper in a new room that I've made. It's not decorated like it is up there, and eventually I will need to get to it so that it is decorated, but this is working out really well. I was able to oxidize everything that I needed for the day and then head on up to the bee farm to get plenty of beeswax so that I could wax it, make sure it would stay the color that I want. And I put a couple of stacks in here for now, and here's the stuff that I've been doing, so we can go ahead and work on replacing that because we don't need to continue to oxidize the stuff that's already finished. Now, this isn't the typical layout that you see for these types of farms, and I absolutely cannot take credit for this. I do not have the ability or the knowledge, math-wise, to make something like this. I found a tutorial, or rather a picture, over on Reddit by Slurp Lord, and so I want to go ahead and give credit to them for coming up with this layout. It seems to be working really well, and it's a lot more compact than just having everything set out 4 by 4 from each other, and it's got kind of a unique pattern to it. Kind of reminds me of the sugarcane farms a little bit, and I went ahead and I mirrored it on the ceiling so that way I can do double batches of everything at the same time. For the most part, I think I'll probably be oxidizing these big blocks like this because they can be turned into a lot of other blocks, but there are some things that cannot be weathered like this. You can't use these blocks to make them. Things like the lanterns and the chains and trapdoors and stuff, those you have to make individually and then place in here whenever you are going to need those. I didn't really want another repeat of the last time that I had to oxidize stuff where I was kind of slowly losing my mind and getting really incredibly frustrated with the amount of time that it took. I think when I oxidized stuff without using a layout or without any kind of a plan, I think I spent 4 to 5 hours waiting on it to oxidize. But with this, I think I spent maybe 1, maybe 2 hours waiting for everything to oxidize, and I oxidized quite a lot in comparison. And now we have 63 fully oxidized copper for any projects that we might need. I set these barrels up so I can have the different stages over here. And again, I will be coming back to this area to decorate it at some point, but for today's episode, I just don't have the time for it, so it's going to remain looking like a hot mess for just a little bit. Including all of the stuff that I placed for the floor, this was all of the stuff that I was able to oxidize in that room rather quickly. I will say that these feel like they oxidize much faster than these little bits and parts. I think before I get started on the roof, I'm going to work on this walkway right here. I'm currently trying to figure out how I want to do this, and I think this might be kind of what I'm trying to do to blend these colors together because they're quite different. This does mean that on these areas where it's a slab, like where it's the half slab on the bottom, I can't add anything there. So those might be a little bit more plain. And then up here, I'll add more details and stuff like that. I'm thinking that might be kind of my solution. I just got to kind of figure out exactly what I'm trying to do with these leaves, if I'm honest. I think at this point, I'm hoping I brought enough leaves because, my goodness. All right, I think that's gonna be good. I'm not sure. Add a few more as I go. I think that's going to be good on the floor here. Just add a little bit of variation so it isn't super plain. I did try to find another slab that was kind of close in color to the dark oak, and I didn't really find anything. So I think we're just gonna go with this. And I think it'll kind of blend in okay because I added a little bit of the spruce in for the little tiny bits of broken railing as well. There, I added a little bit of extra posts, one here and one there. I think that adds just a little bit more that it kind of needs. It's definitely looking rickety. All right, I've put it off long enough. It's time to go ahead and start working on this roof. Along with following this weird slant, I think I also want to have the roof look like a curved witch's hat. I think that would make this building really interesting, and I think it'll challenge me as a builder to try to build something like I've never made before. Don't mind me, I'm pretending I know what I'm doing. It's kind of starting to get the shape. I think maybe this needs to go up just a little bit further before it starts to curve down. I think that's too shallow of a curve, but I think I'm starting to kind of figure out what I'm doing here. I'll get there eventually. All right, I think that curve is looking much better. Obviously, I'm going to need to smooth it out a bit, but I think that's looking more like what I was envisioning of the hook, and it'll come down a little bit further. And if I can figure out how to do kind of like a hook, I'm going to do that as well. But I think for now, I need to kind of bring this part of the roof upward to meet that before I start adding all the extra details. And right now, it's two-dimensional. It's very flat. So I'm going to have to make it look three-dimensional as well. I should also say that I'm under no illusion that the inside of this roof is going to look like a hot mess, and there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. And that's kind of okay, I think. All right, I think I finally have the shape. I'm going to need to clear out some of this extra wood here. As you can see, I started pretty low and had to build it up quite a bit to get it exactly how I wanted it. But I think it's really looking good now. So I'm going to take some of those extra bits out to kind of leave the roof a little bit more hollow. And then I'm going to start to build up from the sides here. Slowly but surely, that is starting to come together. I definitely need to make this part up here a little bit thicker because it's a little bit too thin, and then bring the curl in. And I need to finish the other side because I've only done this side. I'm kind of working on smoothing it out a little bit as I'm going. Definitely need a lot more work on it, but I'm making progress, and I'm surprised that it's actually coming out the way that I kind of thought it would in my head. So I mentioned before that I've never been a witch for Halloween, but I have been a devil. And I'm curious if anyone else has ever asked their parents if they could be the devil before either. I was very young when I wanted to be, dressed like this, but my parents didn't seem to mind. I had, a really shiny red costume. I think it was made out of like satin or silk or something like that, and I had glittery, sparkly horns and a tail. And my brother, who is quite a bit older than me, he was in woodworking at school, and he made me a pitchfork out of wood. And I remember being so excited and so proud when he gave me that pitchfork. And we went out for the night, and I was like so worried that I was going to damage it or break it because he'd made it for me. And my brother had never been, incredibly affectionate, so I felt like I really had to prove to him that I could handle him giving me such like an amazing wonderful gift. And while I was out trick or treating, it was raining that day, and I slipped and fell in the middle of the street. And as soon as that pitchfork hit the ground, it just shattered. And I felt so terrible. And I remember we walked all the way home, and I was crying, and I was a mess. And I was like, he's going to hate me, and he's not going to want to be my brother anymore. And he just laughed when I got there. He just laughed. He thought it was so funny that I was that upset about it. He was like, I didn't even try that hard on it. It wasn't a big deal. And I was so heartbroken. I thought I'd ruined everything. For sure, I had ruined everything. And he was going to hate me forever. It was really funny, but also kind of really sad at the same time. I think it was like a good lesson for me to learn that, maybe my brother didn't dislike me as much as I quite thought that he did. Because I for sure thought that he hated me. I was like, for sure he has to hate me. Adding a few stairs here to see if that helps with rounding out the edge of the hat. Man, would help if I could stay on the roof to do it. And if I could climb the scaffolding. That would also help. I think it's thick enough, but this needs to change right here, and this needs to change. This needs to be a bit smoother right here, but I think that is kind of what I'm looking for. And I need to smooth right there as well. I'm quite sure at this point that I've probably used way more slabs than I could ever have needed to use for this. It's probably hilarious, and if I were to be able to somehow see how many I had used, I bet you it's just so funny. It's looking much better. I think maybe that could be a stair right there, but that is looking better. I think I can go ahead and start to add the little spiral here. And I think we're looking good. Let's check from the front, see what it looks like from way over here. It's definitely lopsided from the front, so I might need to bulk it out just a little bit here and figure out what's going on with the roof right around there. I think I'm happy with the shape. I know that this could be a lot rounder and a little less knobbly, but I actually like the way that it looks now. I think the only thing I might want to do is maybe add a slab right here so that it comes down a little bit further. But I think I'm happy with that shape, and I think I'm going to leave it like that. And I was able to fix everything up from this side. It looks a lot more even. I think the major problem is that I started building the center part of the roof off center. I think right here would have been center, and so it's a little bit off to the side, but again, I'm not too fussed about it. Adds a little bit more character to the roof, and if I'm honest, I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to build this. Here's the view of our roof from this side, which I think it looks really good from as well. And from way over here, you can't really tell it's a witch's hat, but I still think it looks pretty interesting from over here. I think the next thing that I would like to do is kind of figure out a path. This won't connect to our village, but I would still like a path in case I eventually want to connect it somewhere. I think something like this will do. And I brought some other blocks that we could maybe use to kind of work on this area. I wasn't sure what I wanted to use. So here's what I brought. I was originally thinking I might be using the pale moss because of the swamp color. I thought maybe that might blend in, but it really doesn't look like it's going to. And over here, it's not incredibly swampy as it is. This is a pretty bright color of grass over here. So I'm thinking the moss might be the way to go for right here, actually. And then maybe we use a little bit more of the coarse dirt than we usually do and kind of bring the path out a little bit further. Another thing I wanted to try adding in was these mushroom blocks. I actually kind of don't hate them. Maybe they need to be bordered by the coarse dirt in order to look right, like that. Now that I've got that side done, I actually do think that I like it. But I think it's really interesting. It kind of looks like everything's kind of dying or fallow off to the side of the path. And I think that's really interesting. So I think I'm going to keep it. Now we have our path that kind of fades off into the woods here. I'm really happy with that. I think I need to make areas for some of the things that I want to build near the witch's hut, one of which is a pumpkin farm. And I have a few extra things that I think might make it more interesting than just a basic pumpkin farm. We'll see if I can pull that off. I've started our field off with a little bit of a barrier here, and I've used the resin on some oak leaves to kind of give it kind of a berry looking vibe. I think that looks pretty nice. Going to add some pumpkins out front here as well. We have a little pumpkin patch now. I think it's looking really good, minus the chest monster in the back, but I think that's fitting in really well, and that kind of brings in this side of the build. I still need to figure out something to do on this side though, because that's looking empty. And then, of course, we still need to decorate this house. Right now, it is still empty. All I have done is add torches in and look at the ceiling a few times because it's kind of a mess. I think I'm going to leave it a mess though. I think it adds a little bit of character to the build. But we're going to have to come in here and actually make this place look nice. All right, I think we're done in here. I have some kind of a weird art installation here. I'm not entirely sure what I was going for here, but it looks really interesting, so I decided to keep it. I added a bunch of glow berries, just more kind of decorations for this weird, funky ceiling in here. We got our brewing stand area complete and our cauldrons complete. Got pickles all over the place because they're in the pumpkin patch. Over here, looks like the witch was studying a creaking heart, and some of the resin is starting to leak out all over the place. I also thought that these crystals look really magical, and I wanted to include those as well. Outside, I added a few of these copper lightning rods as well, just for a little bit of more color out here. I don't have fire tick on in my world, so this place shouldn't burn down. I think it should be fine. I just kind of wanted the little accent here. And I think that just leaves us with over here to figure out what we want to do. I think I'd like to make some kind of a tree so that I can put creaking hearts in it, because I think it would be really cool if at night there were creaking here and they had maybe come because the witch had been messing with the creaking heart in there and growing some of the resin in the bushes and everything like that. So I thought having a creaking here would definitely add to kind of the eeriness and the spookiness that I was trying to go for over here. To start off with for this tree, I've decided to go with a very bright ground over here with the moss. And the reason for that is because of how desaturated these blocks are. I think it'll look really interesting because this is probably going to be the only pale oak that is over here, and it'll look very special to this specific area if I highlight it with all of this super bright moss. So I think that's what I want to go for. I'm kind of trying to map this tree out a little bit like I did with the roof here. Just kind of using the blocks to figure out what kind of shape I want for the trunk of the tree. I kind of want something that's kind of curled over, and I want like the leaves to kind of hang down almost like a willow, but probably not going to look exactly like a willow. I think I have the skeleton of our tree, and now it's time for me to add leaves and see how it looks. I've never built a tree like this, so it might come out a little bit weird, but I'm all about trying new things and trying to figure out if I can learn how to do stuff. I think our pale oak is done, and I think this might be the best side to view it from. I like the shape from this side. This tree was definitely a struggle for me, particularly because I feel like the leaves are really opaque compared to some of the other leaves for some reason. Maybe it's just because of how bright they are, but it felt like it was a lot more difficult to make this tree feel as airy as some of the other ones. And it might also have to do with like the style that I'm doing, where it's kind of like this hanging willow. I'm very tempted to start pulling some more leaves out of it, and I might. Maybe those. I don't know, just so it has a little bit more of a variation. Yeah, I think I might do that. Yeah, I think that helps make this look a little bit better from this angle as well, to have that little bit of a gap and variation. I'm still finicking with it. Clearly, I'm still finicking with it. Needs just a little bit more variation. I think that'll help. This is definitely not like the other tree that I have built, and I kind of just built it on a whim. It didn't come out terrible. Definitely something that I still feel like I need to experiment with, but I'm pleased with the way that it came out. Last step, of course, is to go ahead and add the creaking heart. I definitely want to keep that here. I'm kind of tempted to do more than one, if I'm completely honest with you, and I might do two, just so that it's even spookier over here at night, and you're even more likely to get beat up trying to come over to the witch's hut. I decided I wanted to add some resin as well, just to add a little bit of extra interest to the tree. I realized that I forgot something quite crucial, which is these. I don't have a ton of them, but I think they would be really nice to kind of add, and they would add a lot more detail to this tree that I feel like it's really lacking. There we go. I think the tree is finally done. I think the creeping moss really helps, along with all the resin clumps, to kind of tie this into the area. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with it. Even if it is my first attempt, I don't think it came out too shabby. It at least looks like a tree. Now that the sun is about to set, let's do a tour of this place while it's nighttime, and I'll try not to get beat up by our new friends once they spawn. We've got our one new friend right over here, and the other one is running through the pumpkin patch. Bet you he's gonna smash some of the pumpkins. Oh my goodness, he scared me. Bet you he's gonna smash some of the pumpkin stems. Sir, be nice. I think these guys are gonna be a pain to navigate around. They keep coming to get me, and I think that one's gonna spot me soon. Okay, well, at least we've got the tree from this view now, and I'm quite happy with it. Looks very nice at night, and we got our little guys peeking out. I'm pretty happy to have them somewhere as well. They should hopefully be the only mobs that are spawning over here. I did try to light the area up. We've got our little pumpkin farm over here, and I'm quite happy with it. It's a little bit different than a normal pumpkin farm, and I'm seeing right there that one of them did smash the pumpkins, so I might have to fix that afterwards. It's no big deal. I'm not sure if they're going to let me look at this build, but we'll head on in and we'll let them deal with outside. In here, we've got all of our stuff for our witch's hut, and I think this is a significant improvement to the vanilla witch's hut. I'm quite happy with the way that it came out. I think it's really cute, and I think it really fits the season. Sounds like we have a drowned out here ready to get us. And the boys, of course, here to smash even more pumpkins. We have an entire squad coming to get me. They don't want me up at night. I just want to show off the spooky build during the spooky time, please, sirs. My goodness, I didn't light up over there, as you can see, and I didn't light up over in the swamp. Let's see if I can sleep before he comes to get me. Ooh, that was close. He sure tried. He sure tried. Oh my gosh, let me clean up this huge zombie mess over here. Oh my goodness. Unfortunately, we couldn't really look at this build during the night as much because of the creakings. They were quite serious about chasing me down, but I hope you guys liked everything else, and I hope you guys liked building with me today. Thank you for coming along with me, and I hope that you have a wonderful Halloween, and I hope you stay safe. And if you don't celebrate, I hope you do something fun today. As always, I really appreciate you coming along on this adventure with me. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again. Bye!